All right, guys, welcome to Unit 2, Outcome 1. Well done on completing Unit 1. So this is a really, really short outcome. There are only 5 key knowledge points. So this one, we're actually going to only pretty much be spending a week on the actual content. Then you'll also have the break. Then you're going to have a week of revision when we get back, and then your SAC will be in the second week. All right. Okay, so this topic, sorry, I'll go back. Legal obligations and financial requirements or obligations that a business must follow. Okay, so 2.1.1, effectively an overview of establishing a business. So they need to have registered a business name, registered a website domain, trade practice legislation, business tax compliance, and WorkSafe insurance. All right. This is actually the biggest topic, I suppose, of the entire outcome. All right. So registering a business name. A business must select an appropriate name that is memorable, easy to pronounce and spell, original, appropriate, professional, non-offensive, descriptive, and functional. Once a business has decided on a name, they are then going to go to the business name register online to see if the names are already taken or if they're in use by another business. Because obviously, if there is another business with that name, the issue becomes when people are searching you that there is a similar or same name. And also for tax purposes and whatnot, you do need to have a different business name. Okay. Once you know that no one else uses it, you then put the business name on hold, and then you will obtain the business name through the Australian Business Register. All right. That happens though after a Australian business number has been addressed. Okay, so don't get confused between an ABN, which is an Australian business number, to an Australian business name. Okay. This is to be used when dealing with a range of government departments and agencies using a single identification number. With the ABN, the business applies to the ASIC website, provides details of persons holding the business name and the address for the business itself. Okay, so if you are an at-home business, your address will also be your business's address. Okay, registering a website domain. So a domain name effectively is just the internet address. Okay, so edroller, www.edroller.com.au, www.facebook.com, anything like that. Okay, and the best domain names are often reflective of the business name, 3 syllables or less, easy to remember, pronounce, spell, and type. Alliterative, so Red Raven as an example, and available for registration via social media channels. Okay, so again, that'd be where you'd be looking at the name of the business, working out whether or not the domain name is able to match, and then if your website can match social media channels. So is there someone that already has that name on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, anything like that? All right. Okay, the next one, trade practice legislation. So these are laws which govern how a business interacts with customers and competitors. So legally, they need to follow the Competition and Consumer Act 2010. Remember, if you are going to talk about this in your SAC, you would need to write out Competition and Consumer Act 2010 and then bracket CCA, and then you can just continue to refer to it that way. All right. What is their actual purpose? They want to promote competition and fair trading, so not undercutting each other, not trying to just bring in as much business as possible with complete disregard for how much you're charging. Provide protection to Australian consumers, prevent anti-competitive conduct, and safeguard consumers in their dealings with businesses and businesses in their dealings with other businesses. All right. And then you have that table there. So commit to guarantees and warranties, do not collude, do not falsely advertise goods or services. There's just a few obligations that businesses need to follow. All right. And an example of this, Samsung is a Korean multinational electronics company which produces devices such as smartphones and tablets. In 2019, the ACCC began legal action with Samsung, taking the electronics company to court for false advertising. The ACCC argued that Samsung misled customers by advertising the water resistance of some of its Galaxy model phones. The court case involved 300 Samsung advertisements, and the ACCC provided evidence of customers who sought a warranty and were not successful in their claim. All right. So I'm sure many people have seen this, but just because something says that it's water resistant is pretty open to interpretation. Does water resistant mean if it gets a drop on it, then it shouldn't break, or as if it is submerged in water for 10 seconds, up for interpretation, okay? So that is where trade practice legislation is going to come in handy for consumers. All right, business tax compliance. We should all know this. Businesses must pay tax. It is compulsory in Australia. Their tax compliance is the extent to which an individual or business must meet their tax obligations. Okay. This is going to be paid to the ATO, just like personal income. Business taxation obligations will include a business carrying out an enterprise in Australia that have an ABN. Remember, your ABN is not only your Australian business number, but it is your Australian Taxation Office identifier. Okay. Similar to how individuals get tax file numbers, a business needs to get an ABN, okay? Business partnerships and companies require their own tax file number. All businesses must pay tax on income and collect income tax from the wages of employees. So if any of you work and have worked enough hours, you will have been taxed, all right? That is actually the business's responsibility to make sure that they are taking that tax from you and paying it to the ATO. All right. Obviously, they need to make sure that they are charging GST 10%, so 10% on top of the base rate. Just remember with that is only in Australia. Not every single country does that. It's not going to be advertised as the post-GST price. It may be pre-GST. A business activity statement must be submitted periodically to advise the ATO and remit tax due on income. So let them know this is still how much we owe. A business with employees must also subject to state government payroll tax. All right. Businesses may consider referring to the government bodies, documents, or hiring a registered tax agent for advice. If they stuff up their tax, there can be penalties. They can be fined huge amounts on top of the amount that they still owe, which is sort of one of the most common ones. But tax evasion, you can, depending on how much, and if there is intent, you can go to prison for it as well. All right. Okay, and then the last one, WorkSafe is an independent government body which governs how businesses maintain WorkSafe insurance itself is the financial protection provided to businesses when employees become injured or ill in the workplace. Okay, so if they injure themselves playing footy on the weekend, that is not going to apply. Okay, but if they injure themselves because the floor was slippery and they fell, then WorkSafe insurance would cover the business for that. So I'm sure most of you do know, but insurance, a contract represented by a policy in which an individual or entity receives financial protection or reimbursement against losses from an insurance company. All right, so it's just effectively you're paying to protect yourself. In the event that something does happen, you're getting additional money back in order to cover the costs. So this will vary based on the risk in the area, specifically if we're talking about businesses. So businesses that potentially are in bushfire-prone areas are going to have to pay more due to the fact that their business is at higher risk. Okay, same if it was flooding, cyclones in Queensland, that sort of thing. All right. The more action you take to reduce risk, the lower your price is going to be. Okay. It is compulsory insurance for a business. Okay. You must have work cover, and you should have public liability insurance as well. All right. So the process for WorkSafe is that you need to register for work cover insurance if you are eligible. So if you hire employees and if you pay employees over $7,500 a year, you must have work cover. Okay. If in the event that you choose to work from home and it is just you, so for example, some bakers choose to make their cakes at home and it's just them because they are quite a small business, they won't have to have work cover. All right. If a worker sustains injury, the business will need to apply for a work cover claim. If it is accepted, it will cover medical costs, legal costs, lost income, large payments for serious injuries, to effectively cover the business and the employee.